On this edition of Southern Newsweek, protesters took to the streets in opposition to vaccination mandates. Jane Campion's film The Power of the Dog screens at this year's film festival. And food banks are worried about how empty their shelves are before Christmas. Kia ora, good evening, I'm Melissa Barton. Protesters took to the streets around the country on Tuesday in opposition to vaccination mandates, with people from education to agriculture expressing their fears. The government recently announced that people working in hospitality or in close proximity to others would have to be vaccinated once a new certificate system began. It follows similar mandates for those in the health and education sectors.
At least one dose of the Pfizer COVID-19 vaccine has now been administered to nearly 90% of New Zealand's population. But many people are still protesting against the mandatory vaccination of close proximity workers.
We are rural people, we do things a different way, we don't do it in response to Wellington.
About 150 members of the Voices for Freedom group took part in a march in Invercargill this morning for what participants described as a fight for their rights. Riverton woman Irarangi Luke travelled to Invercargill for the protest and couldn't control her emotions.
We value our freedom. We do not consent to this crap that they're trying to put us through. We do not consent at all. It's our right that we were born with to say no.
The southernmost marchers headed to the office of local Labour List MP Liz Craig. Meanwhile, protesters in Burclutha were focused more on the rural sector, with concerns that the mandate could prevent them from hiring overseas workers.
I just saw it last week when Farmlands announced that they going to mandate vaccinations, and I'm a shareholder, that I really need to stand up against this.
Protest organiser Michael Majera understands the Farmlands chain is considering firing staff who choose not to get vaccinated. The Ministry of Health revealed there are 125 new COVID-19 cases in the community today, mostly in Auckland, with 6 in Northland and 2 in the Waikato. 89% of New Zealanders 12 and over have now had their first dose, with 79% nationwide fully vaccinated. Across the South today.
The Jane Campion directed movie The Power of the Dog is among the highlights at this year's International Film Festival. The film's already getting strong awards season buzz for performances by Hollywood stars Kirsten Dunst and Benedict Cumberbatch. And a recent premiere screening in Dunedin was very special for 2 talented Dunedin ladies.
Barbara Brinsley and Terry McTavish taking a stroll down memory lane in one of the locations for the Jane Campion film, The Power of the Dog.
It had been really exciting because Rebecca Rowe, who was my old student, said, "Come and be an extra in a film. It has Jane Campion directing and Benedict Cumberbatch." I'm like, yes, absolutely, I am there.
The film has its Dunedin premiere tonight as part of the International Film Festival, with many of the 200 extras set to be dotted about the audience. Barbara Brinsley says being part of the big shoot was one of the more extraordinary days of her extraordinary life.
And it was a great pleasure to be part of a film set with that wonderful Dame Jane Campion and to see her operate the film crew.
In between takes, she spent much of her time reading the book the movie is based on. And when filming was over, she was delighted to have her book cover signed by Jane Campion herself. The 2 ladies say they enjoyed working with the Kiwi director and starring cast members. Terry McTavish is a former head of drama at Queen's High School and was rapt to be part of the Hollywood action.
We were very unimportant, Barbara and I. What we were doing was really just providing local colour on the railway station side. As one of the principals arrives by train, we were just people getting off the train.
It was Barbara Brinsley's first time on a movie set, and she marvelled at Campion's wonderful direction. She's looking forward to being at the premiere.
Yes, very much so. Yes, I'll be there, all right, with friends and enjoying the moment very much and seizing the moment. And my second name is not Joan, but Carpe Diem, seize the moment.
The pair were among 290 extras across New Zealand who worked on the award-winning film. The New Zealand Film Commission says the film brought many benefits to Otago, including $2.4 million to the region's accommodation sector alone. In Dunedin, the South Today.
The COVID-19 pandemic has had an impact on most aspects of daily life. The Otago SPCA says COVID restrictions meant fewer cats were desexed around lockdown, and they're anticipating a real boom in kitten numbers this Christmas.
These little furballs could be the beginning of a wave of kittens being born this summer.
Actually, there's quite a lot more kittens this year, and we're expecting a busy kitten season because people weren't able to get cats desexed last year.
And unfortunately, it's not the only issue which has been exacerbated by stresses brought about by COVID-19. Otago SPCA Centre Manager Ellen Andrews says they're still having to rescue animals from abusive homes.
COVID has changed the way that we do things hugely. It hasn't changed the amount of animal cruelty cases, unfortunately.
While there are paid staff at the SPCA, there is also a lot of jobs carried out by volunteers. During the academic year, many students take time out from their studies to help. Their absence very noticeable when they leave the city after exams.
Absolutely everything. So they do cleaning, they do enrichment, so hanging out with the animals, working on behavioural skills, feeding, monitoring, everything.
The team at the SPCA are keen to hear from anyone willing to help with either adopting kittens or helping out with their animals. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Food banks in Dunedin are noticing the pinch, with their shelves running out of the essential items that fill local food parcels. They've now issued a call out to the public to consider donating so food banks can continue helping out families in need.
The cupboards are almost bare. Shelves at Dunedin Presbyterian Supports Food Bank are looking very empty due to increased demand. Julie Edmonds says the effect of COVID-19 lockdowns and job losses is now evident.
We found a big increase in the need for food assistance, higher rent, power's gone up, and just everyday people are struggling just with the cost of food prices.
On one day last week, more than 30 people asked Presbyterian support for food parcels. That's triple the normal demand at this time of year.
Yeah, huge increase in one day. We were high demand for food parcels.
And it's not just Presbyterian Support Otago struggling for supplies. At the city's 3 other main food banks, operated by the Salvation Army, St Vincent de Paul and the Mosgiel Community Food Bank, stocks are also seriously depleted.
We are actually, in general, running out of a lot of canned foods, soups, fruit, spaghetti, baked beans, just the staples that you put in a food parcel that people can make meals out of.
The public are encouraged to donate to local food banks either with useful cans and food items or by making a cash donation online. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Dunedin rally driver Emma Gilmore has scored a major prize. She's honoured to be the first woman signed to the McLaren motor racing stable at the highest level. McLaren says the Flying Kiwi will race in its Extreme E team for 2022.
Dunedin rally ace Emma Gilmore is riding high. She's just signed with top motorsport team McLaren Racing. The signing unveiled at a high-profile event during the COP26 summit in Glasgow, hosted by Prince Charles.
I still pinch myself, and it still gives me goosebumps to think about it.
By joining the McLaren stable, she's following in the footsteps of famous Kiwis like Denny Hulme.
Oh, it's the pinnacle, absolutely. And, and I just feel so grateful that I've got this opportunity because, I've had many a disappointing season and I've had a lot of people that have stood beside me and supported me through these tougher times. So, so it really feels like a great reward for having that tenacity to stick at it because I love it.
Described as New Zealand's fastest woman in recent years, Gilmore's proud to be a role model.
I think it's a wonderful showcase for young girls and for all women. It's not just the young ones aspiring. It also shows all women what we're capable of. So, it's wonderful to be a role model for that.
She'll be the first female to drive for McLaren Racing, a team founded by Bruce McLaren.
It still doesn't feel real in some ways to be there as part of the McLaren story. Little girl from Dunedin. It feels pretty special.
The Dunedin rally driver is loving her new McLaren kit and feels like the belle of the ball.
where you're getting handed a McLaren uniform and everything fitted. It was just like Cinderella was going to the ball. It was fantastic.
But not everything is going Gilmore's way. With a partner back home and a business to run in Dunedin, she's frustrated by the way the government is managing how people can return to Aotearoa.
I can't believe that as a country, I can travel all around the world, but I can't return home. And, I have a business, I pay taxes in New Zealand, and, I'm one of the lucky ones in terms of I have somewhere to stay and I'm okay. But, I really feel for the people that desperately need to get home for dying relatives and so many sad stories. I think it's really cruel what's happening to New Zealanders.
She has one more race in the Extreme E for the Veloce team and is looking forward to testing and racing her new vehicle with the McLaren racing team early next year. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, a historic de Havilland biplane dating back to World War II visits Dunedin, and the gold rush returns to the town of Lawrence. Welcome back. 150 Fisher and Paykel Dunedin staff spent a day volunteering in the community. A large group spent their time at the Otago Woodturners Rooms in South Dunedin, making solid buildings for some of the city's feathered friends.
Making houses for penguins just in time for a new arrival.
We had our first chick hatch. It's essentially 0 days old, very, very fresh out of the shell. So in about 5 or so days we're going to do an initial health check and see if he's all good and ready to go.
These Fisher and Paykel Dunedin staffers were paid by their company to take the day off and do volunteer work in the community. And after a day working at Otago Woodturners, the team were pleased to meet the target of penguin houses.
We promised to make 50 boxes. We weren't sure exactly how many we were going to get through. We'd never done something like this before, so to get to the end of the day and to finish them pretty much right on time, just as everyone was arriving to see the end of it, is just such a great feeling.
Mitre 10 contributed transport and materials for the 50 or so penguin houses built by the team. Donations worth a few $1,000s for a good cause.
When they're as good as this one, we find it very difficult to say no, especially so if it's got something to do with conservation and sustainability. That's something we feel strongly about, so that's what really ticked the boxes for us.
Jason Van Zanten says the penguins are quite secretive and don't like seeing their neighbours. The A-frame design is the most favoured design by the shy birds.
So we've trialled lots of different things. We've trialled drums, we've trialled boxes, and these A-frames by far are the better source.
The boxes will be delivered to Penguin Place over the next month to replace older bird houses, some of which are about 20 years old. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Dunedin welcomed a classic visitor from the sky, making its journey north for a special birthday. The historic de Havilland biplane stopped over, and one aircraft enthusiast is loving the trip.
Firmly on the ground for a quick stopover, this 1943 de Havilland biplane landed on the Tairi for a few days as part of a journey up the South Island. The Domini Tui is heading northwards to celebrate Nelson Airport's 75th anniversary this month. Mainland Air's Philip Keane has been a fan of the classic warplane for about 70 years.
Well, I used to watch it flying out of the cargo back in the 50s. Late 50s, and then it went to Queenstown, or it went to Tiana Ritchie Air Services, and then it went to, I remember seeing it at Gore Airport in the 60s, so I've sort of associated this since the late 50s, everyone from that big till now,
The World War II biplane has twin Gypsy Queen engines, and it was almost sold to an Australian buyer before the Historic Places Trust stepped in. 27-year-old pilot Jordan Keane will fly the biplane alongside his father Philip, who's relishing the chance to nurture the love of biplanes among younger generations. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A vintage car has made a lucky escape after surviving a major building fire and a roof collapse. This 1930s Dodge was extracted from the former Wolfington and Russell building in King Edward Street. The building burnt down in July of this year with the classic car parked inside. Demolition recently began at the site where clothing retailer Wolfington and Russell had operated for more than 100 years. The two adjoining buildings will also be demolished, making way for a new 3-storey building, including retail and office space and 40 car parks. Wanaka's community gardens have received a small funding boost to help with paperwork. The money will help pay for resource consent work required for the project's large-scale worm farm.
Emberly Weatherall and Julia Greeks enjoying a sunny day at Wanaka's community gardens. The area is designed to let locals grow their own vegetables, helping increase the food resilience in the community. The group behind the initiative is Grow Wanaka, who have a large worm farm as one of their main projects.
Plan is to begin collecting food scraps from our urban centre, bringing them down to compost them, and then the compost will go on to grow organic veggies in the garden.
Because the worm farm uses quite a lot of refuse, an environmental consent is required for the development. To help the group out, the Otago Regional Council is assisting with a grant of about $2,000 to help with their paperwork.
We got the grant because we require resource consent to do the composting and worm farming on site here.
The grant is one of a number coming from a new $50,000 fund which was introduced in the ORC's long-term plan. The aim of the fund is to support groups across the Otago region with projects that enhance the environment. In Wanaka, the South Today.
It was a weekend in the past in Lawrence as the town held its annual heritage celebrations last weekend, showcasing its gold rush history. Visitors from Queenstown and Dunedin enjoyed the sunny weather to learn more about the town's bustling past.
Panning for gold isn't a common pastime these days, but weekend visitors to Lawrence were keen to see whether they could strike it lucky. As part of Lawrence's Heritage Weekend, locals proudly showed off the machines and lifestyles that saw the small town boom during the gold rush.
We don't actually have to put anything on real special, we just do what we are able to do with what we've got, and people just love to come and enjoy what we have to offer. It's simple for us, but people find it fascinating.
Nearby Gabriel's Gully was the site of Otago's first major gold strike, transforming the province into the wealthiest in New Zealand, with a population double that of Dunedin. Tuapaka Museum manager Jess Vikler is happy people could visit the town to understand and share some local history.
Got lots of people coming from all over, and some of them are just popping in for the day, but some of them are here also trying to explore their history, and that's really awesome to meet some descendants of people who founded this town.
After a weekend of entertaining visitors, the next big task is to keep these classic machines in working condition for next year's Heritage Day. In Lawrence, the South Today.
Still to come on Southern Newsweek, a cherry packhouse is used to sort out the best darts player, and Canterbury's Michael Vink rode his way into New Zealand's cycling history books. Welcome back. A cherry packhouse is usually the place to sort fruit, but instead it's been used to sort out the best darts player. Darren van der Velden hosted the first ever Central Lakes darts tournament in his packhouse, and it was a great success.
Throwing darts in an Otago cherry packhouse could become an annual competition for those keen to showcase their skills. More than 40 players from around the region tested their precision in the first Central Lakes darts tournament. Organiser Darren van der Velden wants the tournament to become a regular fixture on the calendar after the first event hit the mark.
It's been amazing. We've had a lot of great support in the community, a lot of positive energy, and everyone's had a great day.
The inaugural tournament was held in a purpose-built darts room in a Cronwell cherry packhouse. Players were able to learn from some of the best, with the competition featuring a number of professional players. Darren Dummigan has played darts as a pro for most of his life and was impressed with how the tournament hit the target.
We've got a lot of time for Darren and the guys up here, great guys, and they're so relaxed. I've never seen a setup like this, it's unbelievable. With the scoring, with the NACA online, unbelievable. It's just so kind of professional, and he's done a great job, really good job.
A group from Glenorchy Queenstown secured top place in the team's competition, with Queenstown Dion Boland claiming the 2021 Central Lakes champion spot. Van der Velden hopes the event will encourage others to give darts a go, helping the sport grow in the region. In Alexandra, the South Today.
Dunedin shoe designer and creator Glenn Mayer is a local success story, having slowly expanded his business to now boast 7 stores across the country. He plans to expand internationally, but admits the global COVID-19 pandemic is making it tough to stock shelves quickly.
Dunedin businessman Glenn Mayer is trying to put his best foot forward, despite challenging global freight delays due to COVID-19.
We've got hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting on containers which we can't get into the store to recoup our money with. Our best-selling range, which again was supposed to be here before October, might arrive by the end of next week, and that's just in time for everything to go on sale. So it is very, very difficult.
The business began in 2008 with a pop-up shop in Christchurch. There are now 7 stores around the country, employing more than 30 staff. While Mayer is pleased to have a loyal customer base, he says the 3-month Auckland lockdown has had an impact. However, he's looking at the shoe half full.
But look, if you don't take the negative and you just keep on top of stuff and keep a positive outlook, you make your way through, and that's no difference with the summer stock being late.
The Mayer brand initially only made shoes for men, but demand from women soon persuaded the business to accommodate them as well a few years later. The decision to start with men's shoes was due to a perceived gap in the market.
14 years ago it was pretty, average, or your choices were limited, so that's why if you could have a great pair of shoes, you were able to give yourself a bit of personality. It became obvious very quickly that many people shared the same thing.
Like many others, the global COVID situation has taken its toll on the business. But Mayer's still looking to the future, stepping up plans to push the Kiwi brand overseas.
Yes, so we've launched in America. It's called Mayer USA, and it's an online operation. We've got a partner over there. We've had our first 2 lots go over there, and it's going very, very successfully.
Aucklanders will be allowed to shop in retail stores again from tomorrow, which is expected to be a positive boost for the domestic market. In the South Island, Mayer has stores in Dunedin's Wall Street Mall and at Riccarton Mall in Christchurch. In Dunedin, the South Today.
A swarm of loose bees turned up in some local shrubbery of Dunedin Park alongside State Highway 1 on Tuesday. A beekeeper who collected the swarm says it's not unusual to see large groups of thousands of bees in the springtime, looking for a new home.
It only takes one deft move for Dunedin Bee Club member Graham Parmenter to shake this wild swarm of bees into a cardboard box. The bee swarm was spotted in the Queen's Gardens and probably came from a hive not very far away.
This time of year is when the hives tend to propagate. So if they've got a lot of bees in the hive, they'll make extra queens and they'll fly off with half of the hive sometimes. It can be quite a loss to a beekeeper if a young queen goes off with half of the workers.
Parmenter says swarming bees aren't very likely to sting.
They're generally pretty placid when they're swarming. They're full of honey and they tend not to be aggressive.
The total swarm consists of about 2,000 or 3,000 bees plus a young queen, and Parmenter's intending to rehome them and see if the queen is actually fertile and able to keep the hive going. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Canterbury's Michael Vink rode his way into New Zealand's cycling history books over last weekend. The 29-year-old broke a Tour of Southland course record on his way to claim his 3rd title.
Michael Vink's ridden the Tour of Southland road cycling race more than 10 times. On Saturday, he added his name to an elite group who've won 3 titles, including Hayden Ralston and Brian Fowler. Vink's Transport Engineering Tallies team have been defending the leader's yellow jersey since a slick solo ride on stage 1.
It's a bit of a different feeling, to be honest. I think taking the jersey really early and really making a mark on the race on day 2 was, we certainly had a target on our backs all week, and it's more a feeling of relief, I think, this tour as opposed to other ones to finally finish off after I think it was 5 days leading the race.
Vink continued that strong run into Invercargill to seal his victory. Earlier in the day, he broke the time trial course record in Winton to get one hand on the prized trophy.
I knew my position was good and my legs were good, and obviously you never know the time till you cross the finish line, and there's always things that can change with some different wind conditions and things, but all you got to do is just put your head down and ride as fast as you can, and it's pretty simple really, and that's what I did.
The talented rider enjoying passing on his knowledge and experience to younger teammates. All cyclists just happy to be part of a competitive event.
We take everything we can, as a bonus at the moment. We never know what's going to be on, what's going to be cancelled, so anytime we get the chance to race, we jump at it, and even this race was in jeopardy for a while.
It's the end of the season now for most riders, a chance to recharge before joining international teams. In Invercargill, the South Today.
And that wraps up this edition of Southern Newsweek. For the latest news from the Southern region, head online to odt.co.nz. And you can follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. Like and subscribe to be notified of Southern news as it happens. Ka kite anō.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.